Learning Impact meeting. Thank you, Jason, for recording. So earlier this year, I had learned about Danny and Kimberly's work and was just really impressed with how they were able to combine different tools in such a way that served the needs for faculty when there's large numbers of enrolled students in their class. So I'm really excited to hear more from them today. Before we get started, just had a couple of announcements I was going to run us through. So this is the first get together of this group since we've had a rotation on the steering committee. So myself and Mitchell have rotated on as the new co-chairs for the year. Andy Miller is now the outgoing chair, and I don't know if he's joined, but just want to give him a huge shout out and thanks to him for all of his great work and leadership over the past year chairing the group. And then we have Marcia Ham also, who's transitioning into the incoming chair role. Marcia, I don't know where you are on the little squares, but Marcia's here with us. And then we also have two new steering committee members that have joined, Tasha Allman Danningbrink and then Stephen Williams. I think I see Stephen, not sure who else, if Tasha made it on. But I'm excited to have both of you guys joining onto the committee. So this whole group is just a great place to share, and I can see that our community is growing. And topics like this one were exactly what we wanted to bring people together to converse on and really just compare notes. So it's really great to see you all. Wanted to make sure here, let's see. This is our mantra mission for the community group as it got started now sometime around 3 or 4 years ago. Mike Sharkey, I see you on, and you were there at the very beginning. This was one of the things that I know you had really spearheaded at that time, along with Kim Arnold. So it's really great that the group has grown and we've got so much interest now. Just wanted to point out that in EDUCAUSE, there is a new Connect platform that they've rolled out recently. You may have noticed. So our work is now sort of moved into this Student Success Analytics Practitioners group. And so I would encourage you all to go in there and look around. We're trying to get better about posting our discussions there. We also have a Slack channel, but we're really trying to use this one as kind of the main place, since this Connect forum is where all of our members are currently participating. And so you can also set up things like a digest for how often you get notified when people post things in here. So we'll be kind of trying to see how well we can utilize this forum and make it work for us. And then we also have our regular announcements and newsletters that will be distributed through this new platform as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this off to Kimberly and Danny to do their webinars for today. I'm going to stop sharing.
And while Danny sets up this screen share, I just want to say thank you so much, Jason and Linda, for organising this and inviting us along today. We're really excited to be sharing our work and our practice and what we do. And before we get started, we just wanted to say as well, we'll be spending the next 54 minutes together, and we want to make this an informal sort of discussion. So please feel free to ask questions along the way, and we'll be keeping an eye on the Zoom chat and answering them as we go. So hello everyone, I'm Kimberly and I'm joined by my colleague Danny, and we're from the University of Sydney, and it's one of the largest comprehensive sandstone universities in Australia. And there are many different ways that learning happens at our institution, and it's driven by instructors who are increasingly time poor and stressed for many different reasons. And we have a very decent reputation at the University of Sydney. However, more recent surveys have suggested that we really need to work on improving student experience, student support and feedback. And our instructors and our students face quite significant challenges, as you can imagine, in building meaningful connections between each other, especially at scale, which is the context we find ourselves in now.
And this wasn't just a recent context for us. Back maybe 9-10 years ago, pre-COVID, my colleague and I were teaching large first year freshman science courses. And by that time, we had classes about 1,000, 2,000 students large. And at that time, students were telling us that they felt really lost in the crowd, felt like a number, that instructors didn't really know them. They didn't really know their instructors. And so we as instructors, we were also really struggling to care for our students and also give feedback to them at scale. And at the time, there was nothing really available to us that could really help us to do this efficiently and build these relationships with our students. And so we did what most scientists and engineers do. We built something ourselves, and we called it the Student Relationship Engagement System, or SRES. And we'll share with you today what the SRES can do and has been able to do for a few people around the institution. So SRES itself can be a little bit tricky to explain. It's not like other analytics platforms you may have come across before, like dashboards and those kind of things. It's more of a Swiss Army knife for instructors in terms of data. It allows instructors to bring in relevant data from a range of different places and then curate it into this one central place within the SRES. And then once it's together, instructors can use it in meaningful ways to personalize learning and support for students. And the important thing is all of this is driven by instructors. There's no predetermined data scientist built kind of analytics or dashboards in there. Everything is driven by instructors and what they need. And we think that having instructors and faculty in the driver's seat with analytics is actually quite key to student success. And this is because so much of what faculty do actually affects students and their success. And we like drawing from this this paper maybe about 15 years ago, which is talking about the 5 senses of student success and why analytics can help along with these. The first sense of these successes the first sense of success is a sense of connectedness. And this talks about how students feel connected to their peers and also to the instructors. The second sense is a sense of capability. And this is the student's feeling of being able to achieve their goals. The third is a sense of purpose, and this is helping students to recognize and affirm their goals and aspirations. The fourth sense of success is a sense of resourcefulness, and this is helping students to find their way through their study efficiently and effectively. And the final one is a sense of academic culture, which is about helping students to feel part of the academic community. And these 5 senses of success come together when we think about student success analytics in terms of what we're going to be sharing with you today. So with these 5 senses in mind, let us share with you a little bit about how instructors at Sydney are using SRES to help make this large class feel small again, and also to build students up towards success. And because we're a Canvas institution, a lot of our screenshots and those kind of things will have Canvas in them.
Okay, so our instructors were hungry for the right kind of data to be able to use meaningfully to support their students. And we're going to show you how easy it is to use SRES to get the right kinds of data from your LMS. So the SRES to LMS connection means that you can have easy access to data that actually matters to you and your students and your courses. So here on the screen, we can see how you can connect SRES with one of your Canvas sites and then choose which data to bring in. And SRES synchronizes the data that you want automatically, so it's available to you whenever you need it. And this connection to Canvas lets you choose from quite a range of data, as you can see. So you can bring in enrollments, gradebook data, module completions, and discussion engagement. And all this is surfaced by SRES. And once you've done that, you can start building a customized database, as you can see, about your students and one that really works for you.
So to build better connectedness with students, we often need to find out a bit more than just recent logins and gradebook scores and other data from the LMS. SRES lets you design how to get to know your students better and at a personal scale as well. Maybe you want to know their preferences, what helps them learn, what their dreams are, how to pronounce their name, what gets them excited. Perhaps you'd like to embed this survey in the LMS and maybe quickly see what your students are saying as well. And then once you've designed your prompts, you can quickly preview this as an instructor. And then this can be embedded into a Canvas page, as we see here through LTI. And so it's just a matter of going to plugins, plugging in the SRES asset you just made, and this will be available to students. And through the LTI, SRES also works with Moodle, as you can see here, and it's just a couple of steps to embed one of these SRS assets into an LMS page. So in the next one, we'll see Canvas from a student perspective. And what you can see here is that it's a seamless experience for students. They don't see the SRS. All they see is that it's their instructors caring for them and wanting to get to know them at this personalized scale.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to attempt a live demo, which might be a bit risky, but we'd really like you to have some experience with the system and how it works. So you're going to get the chance to experience it as a student. So what we'd like you to do is, in order to help us give you each a login to the system, we'd like you to pick a random number between 11 and 60 inclusive. And then once you've selected that number, could you please put it into the chat so that we can make sure that people haven't doubled up and taken the same number. Thanks, I can see some people doing that now. So just make sure no one else has taken your number. Okay, and then you just, there are two 242s. Okay.
Of course there are.
So maybe Jim Williamson might need to pick a new number. Okay, and then once you've got that number and you've double checked it's unique to you, your username and your password are the same, and it's the letters SSA followed by your 2-digit number. So for instance, if you chose the number 12, your SSA 12 for both your login and your password. And then what we'd like you to do, I'm going to put this link into the chat. We'd like you to browse to this hyperlink that you see in the chat and on screen. You can also use the QR code, it will take you to the same place, and log in with your username and password. And is there one more instruction, Danny?
Oh, yes. Where's my mouse gone?
Okay, and then once you've opened up your browser and you've logged in, there'll be an activity there for you where you can complete the prompts as a student. So once you've done that, we'll spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes making sure you've all been able to log in and complete that activity. Keep your browser open because we'll come back to this later on in the session. So the login again, oh, sorry. The login again is SSA and the 2-digit number that you've picked for both your login and your password.
For an institutional installation of SRES, obviously we wouldn't need to do this. It'll all be via SSO. Yes, Heather, that's right. Yep. So yeah, for an institution installation, you just be doing your usual institution login as opposed to doing this other login. Okay, so once you're in, if you could, it should be fairly self-explanatory once you're in there. So just pretend that you're a student in our course today, and we'll show you a few things through our Risky live demo as we proceed today as well. Let me just double check that the data is going in.
I can see some data in there.
Yeah, perfect. So Jason's happy. Simon is sleepy. Okay, great. You can see data coming in. So we'll give this maybe a couple more minutes, Kimberly, and then sounds good. Marsha, what's it saying on your screen?
It is saying when I do the QR code, it wants me to log in, and then it says, please check your username and password and try again.
Are you using the SSA username and password?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your number?
60.
60. Oh, okay. Do you want to try a different number and see? Sorry, SS doesn't work. Oh, maybe I forgot to create the 60th one.
Sure. Do you want me to Put that in
Let
the
me
chat.
see which one hasn't been taken. 28 probably looks okay. Or
28.
yeah.
Okay, let's do 28.
Okay, I think the data is coming in, which is good.
Can see.
All right, should we move on, Kimberly?
Marcia, did that work for you?
Yes, that works. Thank you.
Perfect. Must have forgotten to create 60, sorry.
That's all right.
So we see instructors doing this.
Sorry, I'm
Oh,
having
yes.
difficulty also. The number I picked is, I think somebody else picked it. So can
Okay.
you tell me what other available numbers are?
Sure, let me have a look.
5 is available.
5, so it's SSA 5. Should I put 05 or just 5?
Oh, sorry, not 5, sorry. 56 looks available.
6.
56, do you want to try that one?
Yeah, it says username or password that is incorrect. Try again.
That's really strange. Did I forget to create anything above thing as well? Are you using SSA 56 as your username and
Yeah,
password?
SSA 56. Lowercase. It should be.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
very strange. Maybe I
Um,
I'm
forgot.
going to try 17.
Same message.
Okay,
Incorrect.
that's right. But what I might do, I might when we go through the demo a bit later, I might show what's on the screen as well.
Okay,
A bit
thanks.
easier.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So we see instructors doing this kind of welcome activity that you've just experienced at the beginning of semester with their students or as semester is underway. So another way instructors use SRES is as a regular check-in tool with their students. And we're going to show you an example of this. So in this next video, we're going to see a check-in activity for students that's powered by SRES and it's embedded into a Canvas page. So students access it through single sign-on. So in this example, we're checking how students are feeling, what their confidence levels are, and asking them to think about how they're tracking. And these activities are really useful for building a sense of capability among students. So every time a student hits save at the bottom, these meaningful insights are fed into the database that we saw earlier for instructors to see. Okay, and next, often other meaningful data about students comes from instructors themselves. So here on the screen, we can see a customized instructor-facing view of selected data from SRES about students in their class. And instead of just seeing logins or demographics, you can see here that the data gathered in SRES is really personal, and this helps you build connectedness with students. So here we see a TA entering information about each student's performance in their class. And data can be accessed right from within the LMS or separately on any device, as you can see here. And we have some instructors' stories to share with you, and these will hopefully illustrate the use of some of the features that you've seen in practice. And the first story is of Alex Toning. So Alex uses SRES in a few different ways. As you saw and experienced yourselves, she uses a getting to know you survey, and she sends her students in her large cohort really personalized messages with tailored advice and support throughout the semester. So this is Alex's friendly getting to know you survey embedded into her Canvas site. She then makes this information available to her TAs, and this helps them to build connections with students. And then based on student responses to her regular pulse surveys, Alex sends targeted support through SRES to ensure that students find the right kinds of help for their needs, depending on what they've submitted. And as you can see on the screen, Alex has found SRES to be really useful in helping her to build connections with her learners. And her students see this in the same way.
And as we've seen with Alex, with the right kind of data available to them, instructors can start to reach out to students on a personalized level like never before. Here you can see one of these builds, and we'll do one soon actually live in front of you, how you can create a personalized message right within SRES. You can use any of the available information about students that your database has in order to tailor support to them. This could be how they're feeling, what their TAs are saying about them, whether they've submitted something, the grade they've received for something as well. And as we can see in the next preview screen here, these messages can be completely customized to support the individual. This can be done for 10 students or thousands of students all at once, all at scale.
So in our next instructor story, we'd like to share with you 2 instructors from the health sciences faculty at our university. Tim teaches exercise and rehabilitation science, and it's a senior year unit, which is now completely online due to COVID. And his colleague, Jean Mayer, is an educational designer, and Jean has helped Tim to integrate SRES into his online course design. So Tim helps his TAs build important connections with their students, despite the online teaching and learning context, using SRES in a few different ways. He also uses the system for efficient practical exam marking and feedback. And as we saw with Alex earlier, Tim asks his learners early on to share some details about themselves, including how they're feeling at the onset of semester. And his TAs use an electronic rollbook powered by SRES to capture attendance directly into the system. And on the same page as they're doing that, they're able to see meaningful information about their class that's been submitted by their students, by students themselves. And doing so allows TAs to learn more about their students and capture data for Tim. So this makes it a bit easier for them to build relationships at the beginning of the semester. He also has a major practical assessment in his course, and he uses a customized SRES rubric. So using a mobile device, the markers are able to grade the live practical assessments efficiently. And based on this assessment data, students receive highly tailored feedback to support their learning. And again, Tim thinks highly of the system because it provides really good feedback for learners, and it supports effective and efficient marking. His Getting to Know You survey enables students and TAs to have something like that small class experience, despite the large class context.
So our next story is from Peter Rutledge, and he's a degree coordinator for the Bachelor of Science at our university. And being a degree coordinator means that Peter needs to operate at a much larger scale than Tim and Jean and even Alex. A complicating factor in Peter's work, though, as the degree coordinator, is that we have new federal legislation coming in next year in Australia, which means that students who fail more than half of their courses actually lose access to government funding for their degree, which will actually affect hundreds of thousands of students at Sydney every year. And so Peter needs a way to find these students and help them early. The problem is that there are over 7,000 students across 23 different courses just in freshman science, and each instructor of these 23 courses has a different idea of what it means to be a struggling student. And so there can't be a one-size-fits-all algorithm that we just go wash across all these 23 courses. So the question for Peter was, how does he actually bring together meaningful data to support these students in his degree? So each of the 23 courses has a different set of rules, and they all build these rules. All the instructors build these rules inside the SRES. And so here we can see, for example, first year biology. In this biology course, for example, these coordinators, they care about attendance in the first 3 weeks, and they also care about Canvas activity time, so login time activity, basically. Whereas for psychology, first year psychology, they care about Canvas activity time. They don't care about attendance, but they care about submission of a particularly key assessment in the first few weeks. And so these indicators have been suggested, and they're all different for these 23 different courses. And then what SRES allows the instructors to do is to build these custom indicators within SRES, and then Peter brings all these indicators together into his own part of SRES. And then he's able to use this to reach out to students through personalized text messages and also emails. So this means that he's actually been able to bring together tens of thousands of data points, different data points for every course, and reach out to students in a meaningful way that wasn't actually possible before. And although we can't share students' responses here, many of them have expressed gratitude and highlighted mental and other health concerns. And they're really just thankful for being able to reach a faculty member who cares and who uses SRES to make this large class or large degree feel small again. So at this point, we're going to try another risky demo. I'm going to tab out of this, this presentation. I'm going to try and show you the data which you inputted just before. And so within SRS, and just give this a quick refresh, you've seen some examples of this big table thing inside SRS, and this is essentially the instructor's customized database, which they have built for themselves. And so this is the one that we're using here with all the SSA things, and the data which we all put in a few slides ago is on this right-hand column over here, the welcome survey. So if we go into, I think Jason was 42, we can see, for example, Jason was feeling happy, most excited about learning this semester. He wants to get an A, and he wants to be a spatula as a kitchen utensil. Okay, so then we've talked about this kind of a welcome survey to find out more about your students, but let's talk a bit more about how to maybe send some personalized support out or feedback to your students. And so what we might do, come over here, create a new filter. And a filter is named this way in SRES because my colleague and I, we were scientists, and so filtration kind of made sense to us. So imagine you have a cohort of 500 students, you want to send it only to the 400 who haven't submitted something yet. So that's a filtration. And so what we'll do here is we'll do, this is the SSA community group 1 demo. What we'll do is we'll send something to students who not empty, who have actually completed the welcome survey, and then we'll send this from myself. Welcome to SSA1, and then we'll do hi, and just like you would normally do during a mail merge, you can insert preferred names and these kind of things. I can say your team for the semester is, and then I'll insert a reference to that, your team. We'll pop that in, okay? And then how about I try and pick up on the students who are feeling a bit, let me just have a look at what the data says. Who is feeling, okay, confused, there we go, scared and meh. Okay, let me pick up on the students who are feeling a bit scared. Okay, to feel a bit apprehensive about the course. Here's some messages from previous students that might help. Okay, and then you provide a link, but obviously you don't want to send this to all the students. You only want to send this to the students who feel scared. And so what we'll do is we'll only show this if the how you are feeling this week, I think that's the one, contains scared. And also we could do other things as well, but that's just a really quick example. Actually, let's do another one. Let's have a look at the data again. Lots of people wanted A's, so that's good. Let's do that. It's great that you're aiming high for this course to help you succeed. Okay, and et cetera, and we'll only show this when the grade that students want is equal to A, okay? And then we'll do kind regards, Kimberly and Danny. All right, so let's save this. So then what we'll do here is we'll run a preview of this. And what the preview hopefully will do is, so here we go, we've got Jacob, who is in team C. This is SSA 46, and this is the system name that the system has for Jacob. And Jacob is aiming high because they want to see. If we have a look at some of the other students here we go. So this one must have said that they were feeling a bit scared, and so they're receiving that particular kind of message here. And so you can see quickly here how you can customize or personalize this interaction fairly quickly for a large number of students at scale. The other thing which our instructors find quite useful is this little prompt down here. Every email that goes out from SRES has a tracking beacon attached to it. And so instructors can see whether students have opened the email or not. But also they can choose to leave this little feedback prompt on. And what this feedback prompt does is it invites students to basically give the instructors some feedback on their feedback. And what we're seeing through the data coming through is that about 92% of students actually tick yes, to any kinds of feedback coming through the system. We've got thousands of these responses so far. And what students are really saying about it is that the reason they're ticking that it's helpful is because it helps them feel more connected and that someone actually cares on the other side of the email. There's been quite interesting messages, really heartwarming messages from a bunch of students and instructors saying things like, you know, because of this reach out, I was able to pick myself up again. I was able to turn myself around and those kind of things. And so I think that's the great power of this. One thing that really drives me personally is a few years ago, I learned in our Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, one of the instructors who was using the course, one of his staff told me that a message that I was able to send out through the system reached a student who was on the edge of suicide. And because the instructor was able to reach out to them on this personalized level, they felt really connected and they were able to talk with their instructor and basically turn their life around. And so I think it just even that story for me really propels us to do what we do here. So yeah, so that's filters. And so we'll keep going with the presentation now, and then we'll come back and show you a few other things before. But the filter essentially is just like a mail merge. It's driven by these things that you can customize as an instructor, and it's driven by all the data which is available to you as part of your customized database which you've built. Okay, there's a few questions coming through which we might, it's very long for me to read. Maybe we'll address them at the end, so it gives me a bit of time to read them. Okay, let me pop back to the presentation. But thank you for sending through the questions. We'll definitely have time to get to them before the end. Okay, so we've seen a few examples and a few ways that SRS help instructors to enhance student success through providing this kind of personalized feedback to students. But it's interesting that more contemporary research kind of says that feedback is not just information that's given to students, but it's a process which students have to move through in order to improve. So here's an example of how SRS has helped some instructors to do just this. Before a student turns in an assignment, instructors could perhaps design prompts to help students think about their work, and this can prime students to think about their feedback more effectively. This prompt can then be embedded into an LMS, which you see is Canvas here, at the point of submission, and this is done through the power of LTI. And so from a student's perspective, they see these prompts when they come to submit their assignments. And these encourage them to think about their work more deeply and also to make judgments about the quality of what they're turning in. And then when the instructors grade the assignment, SRES shows them this data and they can use it to provide more meaningful and targeted feedback because they know kind of what the student is after. But of course, these comments here are just information. This shouldn't be the end of the feedback story. What if we could present this to students and encourage them to think about what this feedback actually means to them? So actually get them to see this feedback and think about it. So for example, perhaps this is around affirming how they feel about it, asking them what they may do about it differently. This really invites students into the process of feedback as opposed to just seeing it as information. So here you can see presenting comments to students here through the SRES, similar to what we just built live for you through the demo. And this allows you to basically embed things for students. Here you can hide the grades if you want to help focus the students on the feedback for now. And also you can invite students to think about the comments. Here we have our prompts being embedded into an SRES portal where students are allowed to actually save something into the database themselves. And again, through the LTI, this process of feedback can be embedded into the LMS, which you see is Canvas here. And altogether, this process of feedback that you're inviting students into, I guess, helps to build their sense of an importance of feedback in academic culture as part of our student success.
So to further grow connectedness and a culture of feedback, SRES also lets you build all sorts of activities that help foster student collaboration and peer feedback. And this includes activities like group member evaluation and collecting feedback from classmates. And there are lots of different peer-to-peer activities that you can build in SRES. And that's because every instructor and every course and every sort of project has its own needs. And SRES can also help you to design supportive activities that encourage students to reflect on the feedback they've received from their peers, as you can see here. So what happens next? As you know, the LMS again becomes the home of all of this. So the LTI provides a seamless way for students to interact with the system, to leave ratings and comments for their peers, and to receive those ratings and comments back from their peers and to reflect on it, all in the LMS.
And because SRES can automatically access fine-grained data, for example, from Canvas here, you can pull information, so things like instructor comments that they've left in the LMS, or the rubric outcomes which students have achieved. So these marks and rubric outcomes and comments, these can all be brought into your purpose-built SRES database alongside other meaningful information. So student thoughts, what they're feeling, instructor notes about them, peer feedback, class participation marks, and those kind of things. And once you're empowered with all of this relevant data, you can then use SRES to build personalized portals, which we'll see on the screen very soon. And these portals can be embedded into the LMS, and they can encourage and support and track and also feedback on student learning. And with SRES embedded within the LMS like this, students just see one seamless and supported journey through their learning. And this helps them build their senses of capability and also resourcefulness all in one place.
So we'd like to share with you another instructor story, and that's of our colleague, Ben Miller. And Ben runs an undergraduate foundation course in writing and rhetoric studies, and he has a large cohort of students enrolled. And he uses SRES portals extensively on his Canvas site to engage students in interactive weekly activities in what's now a fully online course. So at the beginning of the semester, Ben uses a portal to direct students to reflect on their goals for the course, what the course outcomes are. And then he also helps them to formulate a plan for how they will write their final essay. And then over the course of the semester, he integrates that captured student voice back into the feedback cycle. And to do this, Ben uses SRES to combine rubric comments from SpeedGrader with students' own responses to build interactive feedback portals that display differentiated feedback and support. And these feedback portals feed back to students their goals, their comments, preconceptions about writing, alongside personalised feedback from their teacher. And this creates a student-centred framework for reading and interpreting feedback. And then our last instructor story is of Julie, and she coordinates and teaches an undergraduate course in organisational behaviour. And Julie really knows the power of self-reflection and peer review in helping students to better judge their performance in assessment tasks. And she integrates these processes into two major group work assessments in her course. So SRES helps Julie to fashion rubrics for self-assessment and peer review that sit alongside prompts for reflection. And these are accessed by her students through the LTI with Canvas. So first, Julie sets up a peer review group in SRES, and then she embeds the peer review rubric into a page into her LMS site. Her students are only able to provide feedback to peers within their project group, and they use the rubric designed in SRES by Julie to provide ratings and comments to their peers. And a reflection portal in her LMS places self-assessment scores alongside this peer-derived feedback and asks each student to reflect on their own judgments of quality against what their peers have said and their peers' assessments of it. And then they're prompted to reflect on how this makes them feel and how they plan to improve in the next task going forward. And Julie again appreciates how SRES makes each step of the self-assessment, peer evaluation, and self-reflection process possible within her course LMS. So student feedback shows that they have learned more about themselves and their work as a result of this design.
Okay, so at this point, I think we're going to tab out of the presentation again and demonstrate just a couple of final things for you. One thing we did want to say is often when people see this system, they think, well, where's the analytics in this? You know, why is this analytics? And we tell them, well, you know, you're using data to support your students, aren't you? But for those who really want the analytics side of things, we often show them this thing. And so, for example, let's, how are you feeling this week? Okay, let's do this. And let's use this, and we'll ignore those. And so this is a, for example, distribution. We'll call this how people in the class are feeling. And then we'll save this thing. And so you can do fairly basic analytics with this system in terms of making small dashboards. Let me just show you this filter that we had before. And remember how this filter we said, you know, hi, your team is, if you're feeling scared, here's a message for you. If you want an A, here's a message for you. Let's turn this into a portal, what we call an SRES, which is kind of like a student-facing dashboard. But the difference here is that the dashboard is completely instructor controlled. And so here what we see, let's just make this active today into next year. Let's delete this bit up here. Well, actually, and then we won't need this, but here's a picture of how the class is feeling. And then we can pop in that little graph that we just created here. So let's save this. And so what we can do here, let's quickly preview this as a student. What we can see here is that this particular student, SSA 59, wanted an A. And so in this portal thing within SRES, they're going to see this message here, and also they're going to see representation of how the class is feeling. And if we preview for a different student, this student also wanted an A, which is great to see. This student also wanted an A, everyone wants an A. This one didn't want anything, and so on and so forth. This one wanted an A as well. And so what you see is essentially through the SRES, because SRES has this data available to you as the instructor through this database which you create for yourself, it allows you to really build these personalized things that you make available to your students to provide them that kind of support. Okay, and I think we're back onto this. I might tab back into this.
We will get to your questions. I've been typing answers to some of them, but we will try and reply to all of them by the end. So now we've seen a few glimpses here of what instructors can do to make the large class feel small again. And that happens where they're able to capture the right kind of data and curate this and use it meaningfully. So now over 3,000 instructors at Sydney University use SRES for over 1,000 courses across all of our faculties now, and for almost all of our 75,000 students. And in the past 5 years, over 740,000 personalised messages have been dispatched, with over 200,000 already this year to almost 42,000 students. So it's got quite a range and reach now. And there have been over 1 million interactions with those LMS embedded portals that you saw just in this year. And students are overwhelmingly positive about these. So SRES is also personalising learning for students at a number of other universities. And we really welcome more collaborators who are keen to empower their students using the right kinds of data.
So fundamentally, SRES is cloud-based software, and it was built at the University of Sydney and also Melbourne. And we're really quite passionate about the fact that it was built by instructors, with instructors, and for instructors. We think this is a big part of why it works fairly well for instructors. And as you've seen today, its power comes from its flexibility and also its potential to connect to various systems. And hopefully today didn't seem like a sales pitch. It wasn't meant to be. It is available for free if you would like the code base. You just need to sign a license to make sure you don't share the code with other people. It's not fully open source, but we are happy to collaborate with you for free. And as we've seen SRES grow over the years, we've been careful to stick to a few underlying design philosophies. These have been refined over time based on what we're seeing actually works for instructors through an analytics platform. The first of these is that it must provide an advantage over what instructors are doing currently, and it needs to actually improve or help with something. The second for us that's really important is it has to be human-centered. It has to actually improve well-being or relationships or do something about the humanity of teaching. It also needs to be action-oriented. It's not enough to just show people data. They actually need to do something with it. And hopefully what you've seen today is that actionability of the data which is within SRES. Also needs to be instructor-driven. It can't be data scientist-driven, even though data science is really important to think through things, but it has to be instructor-driven because they truly understand the context of their students and also their courses. And finally, as you've hopefully seen through today, one of the philosophies we always stick by with SRES is that it needs to be flexible because every single instructor has a slightly different tweak on how they want to use data and analytics. And it's really important for the platform to be able to accommodate for these needs.
So if any of this looked interesting to you, we'd love to work with you. So please do get in touch with us. Our email addresses are on the screen, and you can also visit our website. And we're happy to take some questions and to spend some time making sure we've gotten through the questions in the chat as well. Thank you everyone for participating and for listening. And if you'd like to unmute to ask a question, we're happy to have a conversation.
So Kimberly, do you reckon we should move through the chat and start with the 8:29 a.m. Questions from Linda, and let me know if you've already answered them in chat and we can go through there.
That sounds good, yeah.
Okay, sure. So Linda's got, where's it, hitting save for a new event and record on a stream.
I've answered questions 1 and 2, but not 3 of Linda's.
Okay, cool. So did you answer the thing about the change history? Yeah, perfect. So 3, how are you creating the indicators for instructors, and how do you account for the variations in how indicators might work differently in those classes? Yeah, so the question is around curation of indicators, and one of the things about SRES, which you could either perceive as a positive or a negative, is that instructors are in control of their indicators. And so instructors, because we feel they understand the context and their needs of their courses and also their students, they're the ones who are best placed to form those indicators. We do have some machine learning kind of in the works that presumably is meant to be designed to help instructors come up with some of these indicators, but we prefer the instructors to kind of use their humanity to develop these. Let me just stop my share so we can see people, and I also look through chat. Okay.
Maybe the question from Belinda Easter, I answered that in part, but I'm curious to hear about the implementation process. For example, time, cost, and resources.
Yeah, so the implementation process is depending on which license you want to go with. If you want to go with a free license, then essentially you sign a license agreement with Sydney University. We give you access to the GitHub repository, which is private, and then you spin up a Linux server or 2, and then you get it installed. I'm happy to help you for free as well if you want to investigate that. The fastest we've seen it spun up at an institution is about 2 weeks. And that's because you've got to jump through some IT hoops to get, SSO hooked up and email hooked up and those kind of things.
Okay.
Which other one should we hit?
So Linda Feng, question number 4, how do you deal with getting consent for students to use this tool to communicate with their teachers? Do you see pressure from department level administrators and above to use this data for other purposes?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And there are a few other questions about privacy and consent and those kind of things, which maybe I will try to answer in one go. What the system tries to do is it tries to make teachers faster and better and stronger. It doesn't make them creepier. And the reason I say that is because the data which the system helps teachers gather is data that the teachers would be able to do anyway as part of their usual role. So they could talk to their students and write it down on a piece of paper. They could talk to their TAs and write that down. They could go to Canvas and download a CSV and then put that in. But what SRES does is it makes that all automated for the teachers. And so it doesn't let teachers do anything they can't already do. It just makes them faster at it. And so because of that, people have been quite comfortable, students and teachers have been quite comfortable with the level of data which SRES collects and what it does with it as well. And because it's all instructor driven, there's no creepy analytics going on in the background to ping people about being at risk and those kind of things. It's all teacher driven. And yeah, we have seen some department level administrators and above saying to teachers, well, this is available, why don't you use it? And as a central SRES team, we've been quite active to push back on those admins to say, no, this needs to be about the pedagogy, it needs to be about the teaching and the teachers themselves.
There's a question about how, sorry, Danny.
No, go.
How long student data is stored and how it's used after the given semester.
Yeah, often, so it's stored in perpetuity as long as that's what the institutional requirement is. In New South Wales, in the state here, we have a requirement to store data for 7 years, I think, and so that's what we do here, but it can be deleted after a set time if you need.
Can a student's data be analysed across other program courses, can course data be compared across different terms of a course or different sections of the course?
So the example that we showed for Peter Rutledge, where he had to coordinate a whole degree program, that's an example of a cross-course comparison there. So it can be, it's not super easy, but it can be done.
Wondering if all collected data is text-based, how do you take care of biases?
Oh, that's interesting.
Not sure of the second part, but wondering if all data collected is text-based, not necessarily.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the data collected, yeah, it's mainly text-based or numerical. There's images and files and stuff that students and teachers can load in as well. In terms of biases, I wonder if that's kind of a research question. Mainly we see teachers using this in terms of kind of outreach to students and student support, as opposed to using it for research collection. So I don't think bias is a huge issue for teachers.
Yes, Anna, the messages go to the student's university email, or they could go to the Canvas inbox. You can choose. Does this work for small classes, say 60 and under? It does. Can you use SRES without embedding it into Canvas? You can. Yeah. The LTI is there, and most people make use of that. You can if you don't have an LMS. Do your instructors have to learn about the Canvas schema or know SQL to design and use the indicators?
No, so it's a good question. What the instructors do is they see essentially shopping lists of things that they can bring in from Canvas, and they just tick yes, I want this. And then once that data comes in, it just appears as numbers or letters in their big database, and then they can use that to say, find me all the students who got below 75, all those kind of things. And Marsha, yeah, it does meet most web accessibility requirements. We're working on polishing up a few remediations there.
Do you have any accident or unintended use stories? I have a few. It's about as frequent as how you make a mistake with an email. Yes, so typos happen. Yes, you have to be careful with the messages that you send, just as you would with email or other forms of communication. And someone did have their hand up earlier. I think it was Simon.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Simon, did you have a question that wasn't answered yet?
I do have a quick question. So when it comes to deploying the technology itself, how big of a team do you usually work with? Is that something that one person can do, or what would be the investment of the institution to adopt it?
So when we worked with the University of New South Wales, I worked with a single person. That single person had a good relationship with their ICT team, and so they were able to stand up a server fairly quickly. And that person also had capability in faculty development, and so he was kind of a Swiss Army knife of everything as well. But the teams we usually work with need to be cross-functional in terms of getting the server set up. I can help with that if I get a login to the server, and then there's a bit of faculty development needed in terms of how to get the initial pilot people on board as well.
Thank you.
Okay, there was a question from Patricia about integration. It is an LTI tool, but it can also stand alone. It was initially built to stand alone, even though now it can plug into LMSs like Canvas and Moodle through the LTI. Okay. I think
There's one last question from me.
Yeah, Linda.
Just the one last question about what you mentioned, what I'm calling the semantic layer, that thing that you said was like a shopping list. That could be really useful. I'm just wondering if that's something that you all have developed that could be shareable.
Yeah, we can produce a list of things that can be that can be shared with others. Yeah.
And Simon, you've got your hand up as well.
Yes, a great job, by the way. This is really cool. Now, have you considered using sort of the next development layer, AI, to be able to perhaps automate some of the messaging, or the low risk messaging? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's Our thoughts around AI, which we're experimenting with a little bit, is mainly to provide nudges to the instructors and then provide an easy way for the instructors to then build these messages or portals out to students. One of our design philosophies, which we didn't talk about, is I guess it comes with the human-centered and instructor-driven, is that we don't like instructors doing things too automatically with the system. And so what we don't let people do is we don't let people set up messages for 12 weeks in the future and hit go now. We only allow them to schedule it 72 hours in advance because we don't want them setting and forgetting, which an AI might encourage as well. And so our approach to AI will be, when we get to it, will be provide support, decision support to instructors to help them do this, as opposed to do it for the instructors.
Yeah, it seems there's opportunities there in especially sentiment, right? So someone's putting discussion board entries and AI can detect their said, and then, you know, as an opportunity to respond in some kind of a relatively short period of time.
For sure. I'm just going to quickly share my screen in the 1 minute that we have left. Let me just share that, I think. So coming on the screen now is the dashboard of SRES, and at the top of the dashboard here, you can see that the very top thing here, I wonder if I have any here, is a kind of a alert system for instructors. And what this is a tiny bit of AI in the background here to basically flag to instructors if there's any problems with student data coming in, or problems with the feedback that students have been receiving, that your messages have been receiving, or any kind of outliers in your data to kind of say, hey, you know, what's going on here? Do you want to, for example, send these students a message or something? So there is a tiny bit of AI that we're starting to build in terms of this.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly and Danny, for this amazing presentation. There's so much information that I think all just were like, wow. I wish we had a little more time to bombard you with more questions, but this is great. I think there'll be even more people who tune into the recording, but thank you again for sharing this really amazing work. And I invite you all to continue the conversation in our Connect portal. As Danny, I think you're in there, and I think Kimberly, you might also be in there.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for your questions and your engagement and your interest. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good day, everyone.